Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with another Pioneer video. And today, we're going to be talking about 10 cards that were originally sleepers in Pioneer. So there's a few things we have to talk about before we hop into the list. And one of those things is that we are currently on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And if you want to be a part of the huge giveaway that's going to be happening once we get there, you're going to want to be subscribed to the channel, not only so you'll be notified as soon as we get there, but one of the requirements to be entered into the giveaway is to be subscribed to the channel. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. And then the other thing I have to talk about is what I'm using as the definition of a sleeper card with Pioneer, because relatively speaking, Pioneer has not really been around for that long. It's been around for about, 5.5, 6 years. So this is my definition of a sleeper card. A card that wasn't discussed during spoiler season or didn't see play for a while, but now sees active play in the format. So there's a couple of cards on here that haven't been out that long that are being featured on the list, and it's like, hey, this isn't a sleeper, it's only been around for about a year, but it's cards that no one really talked about during spoiler season and then really caught fire in specific decks. All the decks that are going to be talked about today, at least are decks that people do like to play. It's not necessarily just like tier 0 or tier 1 decks, but it is cards that actively see play in current iterations of that specific deck. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into it here. So number 10, this one might be a little controversial, but you have to hear me out here, is Niv Mizzet Reborn. So Niv Mizzet decks have relatively been around since the beginning of Pioneer, but most of them really weren't that good until I would say maybe around New Capenna. That's when a lot of good cards entered the format in terms of like the second half of the Triomes, which was a huge boost. There was also just around that time, I guess also Strixhaven, there was a lot of just good multicolor cards entering the format, which really helped Niv Mizzet Reborn in general. I feel like the true final nail in the coffin in terms of making the deck good was when we got Up the Beanstalk in Leyline Binding. But overall, this deck was not crazy good until we started getting some recent, multicolor cards. And that's really when this deck started to take off. At first it was just like a niche deck that you could play as like, oh, hey, it's fun, Niv Mizzet Reborn. But now it's definitely one of the best decks in the format. So Niv Mizzet is number 10 on the list. All right, number 9 is a new card that's being featured here on the list, and that card's Mockingbird. The reason I want to mention this card is I feel like a lot of people weren't really talking about this card when initial spoiler season for Bloomborough happened. It was a card that was just like, people like, oh, it's kind of like a self-clone, or, like it counts anything, but usually you're going to want to count your own thing. Like, it was just kind of a niche card for the most part, but it definitely found room in Humans, Blue-White Spirits, as well as the Blue-Black Ninjas deck. This card is really, really good. I still feel like it's a very underrated card in terms of how strong this card is in Pioneer. I mean, when you're playing it in Humans and you get to copy like Thali's Lieutenants and stuff like that, you can just do some really insane things. So overall, Mockingbird is number 9 on the list just because no one really talked about it, but the card is absolutely fantastic. Okay, number 8, I have Artist Talent. Now, there were a lot of speculation around this card when it was first spoiled, once again, in Bloomborough, but no one was really talking about it. It really didn't start popping off until a little while later. Izzet Phoenix started playing this card, and some iterations of the deck do still play it, but where it really became a strong card was in Izzet Lotus. So with Lotus Combo, originally the deck was kind of like a Sultai, kind of like a 4-color combo deck. But a lot of iterations now are really just Izzet. You just play a whole bunch of cantrips and then you just play like Artist Talent, for instance, and you kind of just pop off, which is really, really cool. So Artist Talent, again, a card that not a lot of people were talking about initially, but as the format kind of went on a little bit, people started playing it. And overall, Artist Talent is definitely a very, very nasty card in both Izzet Lotus and Izzet Phoenix. Okay, number 7, I have another card that's kind of close to Artist Talent in terms of the deck it's played in, and that's Strict Proctor. This card didn't see any play for quite some time until Blue-White Lotus picked it up. In Blue-White Lotus, it's absolutely perfect. So not only is it good against your opponent, sometimes they have some ETBs that can be tricky just because you have to pay an additional 2 mana to be able to have that triggered ability happen, but it's also just great because you just play your Lotus field and then obviously you're not going to pay for the trigger, so it's going to get countered, so you just get to put a tapped Lotus into play. It's really, really good. So overall, Strict Proctor, card that no one was playing, but it's definitely one of the best cards in the Blue-White Lotus deck. Heck, it pretty much makes the Blue-White Lotus deck. It's the reason why you would specifically play white in your Lotus combo deck. Okay, Number 6, I have Enigmatic Incarnation. So when Theros Beyond Death came out, there were so many powerful cards that initially came out in this set. There was cards, for instance, like Underworld Breach, Thassa's Oracle. We also had Kroxa. We had cards like Uro, and a number of different cards that were really, really strong that entered the Pioneer format. And this was a kind of card that it seemed like it could be strong in the format, but we never really knew, just because there was a whole bunch of other, not even just like busted Simic cards going on, but just a whole bunch of other good, powerful things going on in the format at the time. So really a card like Enigmatic Incarnation really didn't see a lot of play for the most part, but then we started getting some other pieces to it, and honestly, I think 5-color Incarnations is probably one of the more underrated decks of the format. It's a fantastic toolbox deck. It plays a ton of different one-ofs. And honestly, I think this deck's really, really good. So I have Enigmatic Incarnation at number 6 just because, again, it's a card that really didn't see a lot of play, but as time went on, people started brewing with the card. It's definitely really strong. It definitely makes the 5-color Incarnation deck, obviously, because that's the name of the deck, is 5-color Incarnation. Okay, top 5 territory here. So number 5, I have Waste Not. A card that's been in Pioneer since day one, but really didn't start really seeing play until the last year. So on paper, it's a pretty strong card, but a lot of the discard cards slash decks in the format were really not that strong. What really helped Waste Not kind of become more powerful was Liliana of the Veil. Liliana of the Veil definitely helped quite a bit. But then we also got, obviously, cards like Shieldred, which helped quite a bit. And then we even got a card like Sunken Citadel, which really just helps the mono-black Waste Not deck just, for multiple reasons. Because obviously it plays like cards like Field of Ruin and Demolition Field to kind of hate on your opponent's mana base a little bit. It also plays a card like Gyre Reach Sanitarium, which is really, really good with Waste Not, just because it makes your opponent discard cards and then you get additional abilities with Waste Not. But then it also helps you activate cards like Castle Locthwain, for instance, Hive of the Eye Tyrant, just a whole bunch of your different lands that you like to play in general in your mono-black Waste Not deck. But overall, again, Waste Not, it's been around since day one, but didn't start seeing any play really until the last year, and that's why I have Waste Not at number 5. Okay, so number 4, I have Kaido Bane of Nightmares. So again, it's a new card, and it's currently seeing play in the format. Why is it on this list? That's because no one was really talking about this card during spoiler season. People were just like, okay, cool, it's a 4-mana Planeswalker that you can pay 3 mana for, and, like, whatever, it's ninjas. Ninjas aren't very good, though. I mean, how good is this card, really? This card is insane, let me tell you. Just honestly, the fact that Dimir Midrange plays very, very few actual ninjas should tell you everything you need to know about Kaido. The card is just so good that you don't even have to play a ninja deck. You can just play it, and it's just a really, really good card, but it's also fantastic in the Dimir Ninja deck. I mean, heck, you can kind of consider ninjas just in general at number 4 on this list, because all these ninjas saw 0 play, and then Kaido comes along and makes a reason to actually play ninjas in the format. So Kaido Bane of Nightmares is number 4 on the list just because it's a card that nobody talked about and is incredibly strong. All right, top 3 territory here. So number 3, I have Venerated Loxodon, a card that saw exactly 0 play in Pioneer when the format was created. When people were starting to build a whole bunch of different decks, no one was thinking, man, Venerated Loxodon, I really feel like could see some play someday. No, nobody was talking about this card. The reason this card started seeing play was because of Gleemal Demolition, as well as cards like the Knight Errant of Eos, just being able to make a whole bunch of tokens and then immediately tap them, and, in this case, putting a bunch of 1/1 counters on them and getting a 4/4 or drawing some extra cards is just fantastic. So Boros Convoke definitely put Venerated Loxodon really just in the format. I think Venerated Loxodon is potentially in danger a little bit, though. If they make another Convoke style card that's like this, I think that Knight Errant of Eos is much stronger than Venerated Loxodon, so I think it should be scared in the sense that it could get outclassed in the future. But just in general, for now, Venerated Loxodon is a fantastic card in Boros Convoke. It's definitely one of the best cards, and that's why it's number 3 on the list. Okay, number 2. Again, another controversial card that people are going to, call me crazy for putting on this list, but it's Resplendent Angel. When the format started, this card saw 0 play. A lot of the fantastic angels that we know of now, for instance, like Bishop of Wings, which is not an angel, but it's an angel card, and cards like Righteous Valkyrie. I mean, you could even consider like Book of Exalted Deeds. That deck saw you know, all those, it's all new cards, or at least relatively speaking, newer cards. When Resplendent Angel was one of the only angels in the format, this card saw zero play. People played it in Commander, sure, but no one was playing this card in Pioneer. It just wasn't good. I mean, like, the best thing you could do is, like, play it and then, like, maybe play a Lyra Dawnbringer somewhat soon after, and then, again, maybe attack in, get some damage in. But realistically, no one was playing Angels for a long time, and Resplendent Angel is now one of the best cards in the entire deck. It's also pretty good in Soul Sisters when you're just accidentally gaining a whole bunch of life. Sure, it's not like a Cleric or a Human or anything like that, but just gaining a bunch of extra life and then making a 4/4 Flying Angel is just already pretty good in its own right. So that's why I have Resplendent Angel at number 2. The card was not good for quite some time, really until call time, and then now the deck is one of the better decks in the entire format, and it's one of the best cards in the entire deck. Okay, so number 1. It's going to make sense why this is number 1 on the list. I think that most people initially probably aren't thinking about this card being at number 1, but it makes total sense. It was a bulk rare. It kind of is still a bulk rare in a way, but no one was playing this card until a specific card from Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and that card is Parhelion 2. No one was playing this card, and I cannot stress this enough. Nobody was playing this card before Greasefang actually entered the format. It was just a random cool, you know, splashy, flavorful bulk rare, like, oh, whatever. But no, Parhelion 2 is the most annoying thing that the Greasefang deck can actually reanimate, just because it's a 5/5, and then when it attacks, you get 2 4/4 angels that are also attacking, which is basically just game over. It's like, okay, you just put 13 power worth of flyers onto the battlefield. I guess we can just go ahead and go to the next game. But overall, Parhelion 2, it makes sense why it's number 1 on this list. It went from a 0 to a hero, a bulk card to a fantastic card, and in some ways it's also one of the more annoying cards in the format along with Greasefang. It's obviously one of the best cards in Abzan Greasefang and Mardu Greasefang. But yeah, Parhelion 2 is number 1 on the list, and it really just makes sense. If you do disagree with my list, though, feel free to let me know what you think in the comment section. But overall, I still think I'm pretty happy with my list overall. Alright, so that takes us to the end of the video here. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Once again, we're almost to 1,000 subscribers. You're not going to want to miss the giveaway once we get there. Huge shout out to our channel members, Ralph, Matt, Arcadius, Ray, Gary, Sironuki, Knight Red 3, and Michael D, who is our premium channel member. If you're interested in being a channel member, it starts at $1 a month, and you get access to the exclusive Commander Crane Discord, as well as other features here on the channel. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I hope to catch you in the next one.